ReefDudes is sponsored by Brightwell Aquatics and Bulk Reef Supply.
Today it's all about refugiums and getting the most out of yours. What's going on, guys? Devin from ReefDudes. So I get questions all the time about asking, why people are having issues with the refugium. It's going great, all of a sudden stuff stops growing, or sometimes you get weird muck in there. So I figured today would be a good time to do a bit of video on update on some of the common refugium mistakes or how to fix those little issues that do pop up over time. Now, it doesn't matter if you're using an algae turf scrubber, using a Chaeto Reactor, or just Chaeto in your sump. It's all these similar things are going to happen in many of those instances. And one of the first ones is too, when you look at your Chaeto, this happened to me actually more frequently back in the day when I had the Chaeto Reactor, but you get kind of like a gunk built up on top of your Chaeto. It gets kind of weird slimes and all this other like cyanobacteria looking stuff in there. And that is actually generally from not enough flow through it. So if you have the Chaeto Reactor, you can kind of crank up the flow on it. And a turf scrubber, I haven't quite had this issue. I've definitely had it in my sump actually today. So I pulled out the top layer Chaeto. It's the easiest way to get rid of it. And it's gonna get a little more flow, turn up my return pump a little bit, so a little more flow through the refugium. Now you could also put a pump in there. Now, when you looked at what it was inside of my refugium, it's actually just on the very top layer, and that's the part was at the very top of the water. So there wasn't much flow there. Now, once I skimmed off that top layer, everything is below the surface level. You have a lot more water flow going above and around it, and that's gonna kind of solve that issue. So one of the first mistakes there was one, not having enough flow through it, or two, not trimming your refugium enough. So you need to leave room for expansion to let stuff grow, and that's gonna help it thrive and keep exporting those nutrients. Now, another problem that I had back in the day when I had my Chaeto Reactor, the thing grew like crazy for about 2 to 3 months, and all of a sudden my Chaeto started getting thin and stringy. It started kind of dying off a bit, and I just wasn't getting the same growth that I used to. I've seen this very common refugiums as well. Stuff goes amazing for a few months, and then your Chaeto just kind of starts to like wilt away. And usually what happens with that is you are running out of your trace elements. So they're iron, molybdenum, and cobalt are the main three that your refugiums are sucking up as your algae grows. And there's going to come a point, if you're not dosing these, you are going to eventually deplete them. And when you're depleted them, your Chaeto, your algae is going to suffer. So this is one trace element you definitely want to replace when you're doing it. The one that I'm using right now is called Chaeto Grow from Brightwell. And this guy has iron, cobalt, molybdenum for chaetomorphic growth. So this makes a big difference. I currently have this on a doser and I'm doing 2 mils a day. You could put this dose a capful or 2 a week, depends on your system's instructions, but it is very important to have those elements in the water to keep your Chaeto growing and happy. Now, the one other thing that can happen too if your Chaeto's not growing quite as well as you want is to take a look at the lighting on it. Having a decent refugium light makes a big difference. Now, you are trying to grow algae in your sump to suck up those nutrients and prevent algae from growing in your tank. So when you have a ton of high-powered lighting on your tank and like a very dinky little light down below, that can be a bit of an issue, right? You want to outcompete the lights on your tank, so you want a decent light down below. So you can absolutely grow it with like a little CFL bulb and some of those, but I've tried those, I've tried the shop lights and everything else, but the more wattage, the more juice spread for a plant growth spectrum of light you have, the better growth you're going to get out of it. So the more growth you have, the more nitrates, phosphates your Chaeto's soaking up, and as well as the more of a pH boost you're going to get out of it. So that's another big thing for, at least on my tank, I want to get that pH up. So having a high rate of photosynthesis increases how much CO2 that algae is sucking up. It's going to increase your algae growth and boost your pH. Now, another good consideration, since we're talking about CO2, if you are running a calcium reactor, feed that CO2 line to your refugium. That's, again, going to help that algae grow and suck out more and be more successful in your tank. All right, guys, so if you had any of those problems, I hope today I helped you find the solution. If you have some other weird one going on, let me know in the comments below and I'll see if I can help you out. If you learned something you enjoyed it, hit that like button. Make sure you guys are subscribed and I'll catch you guys on the next video.